welcome back to the First Gnostic Church of Christ. We are on video number 2 of the dialogue of the Savior. In our last video, we came to see 3 of the followers of Christ had a set of questions that the Savior or Christ was happy to answer for them. They included Judas, Mary, and Matthew. Now, it's not clear if that's Mary Magdalene or it's Mary, the mother of Christ, but there is some hint that maybe it's Mary, the mother, but it's really inconsequential. Now, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. Really, we, in the last video, talked about the importance of recognizing the difference between labor versus good works. Labor being those things that cause suffering and pain that we're not connected to spiritually, and then good works being those things that are of who we are. And for each one of those, each one of us, it's different. As we each have a seed that's unique to us, a gift that we offer the world, that we plant and it grows, and hopefully grows a very fruitful, healthy tree. And so that's really what Christ talked about at the first video, a section of the video that we covered, a section of this book. And he went on to talk about how important it is to not live in a state of fear, as the world will challenge you, both on the right and the left. The right with a set of laws and dictates. Follow this cherry-picked version of the Bible, or else will stone you, cast you out of the church, whatever it happens to be. You're going to hell in a handbasket, so forth and so on. So fear, guilt, shame, those kinds of things. That's that type of fear. Then there's the other side, the left-hand path, that talks about there not being any real purpose in the universe other than chasing after lust of this world. Power of money, power of or control of others, fame, glory, fortune, lust of the flesh, so forth and so on. So these are the two paths that are constantly dominating the airwaves, dominating the space in the Kenoma. And there is the narrow path that Christ and the Mother Father has seeded in you, that everything else on the outside is a distraction by which it's trying to get you to not follow that path. So that path is the one that's going to lead you out of the Kenoma. It's going to lead you to a state of fulfillment. And once you've completed your mission here, you have no purpose in coming back to this realm. You then sort of graduate. You ascend onto the Holy Souls realm or beyond, depending on whatever your mission was and what you completed while you were here. Now, the 12 disciples, they are those that completed to transcend the realm of the Kenoma and the Holy Souls to go on into the Pleroma. And so let's pick up where we left off, and where Judas asked the Christ about what he calls the signs. And he says here, "Tell us, Lord, what was," "Behold, I see that all things exist, ... And again, this particular text is missing a lot of various different pieces. So there's fragments that are missing. So we're just going to do the best we can with what we got here to interpret sort of what is maybe being said here. "Behold, I see that all things exist, ... like signs upon ... On this account did they happen thus." My guess is Judas is talking about how the universe has some kind of order to it, that there are signs and symbols in the universe, and he wants to know, does this have something to do with the way everything came together? Now, this does hint to Genesis chapter 1, where literally it does talk about that being the case. In Genesis chapter 1, we go down to verse 14, where it says here, "And God said, Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." Other parts of the Bible, there also have been talked about that God has placed signs and symbols in the universe. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the astrology, right? The wheel of life that's talked about in Ezekiel. That's talked about in the wheel of life that's talked about in Ezekiel. And so this is what I believe Judas is referring to. So let's go back and see how Christ then answers. "And Christ said, When the Father established the cosmos, he," again, I'm just going to read straight through rather than say ... and it's going to sound disjointed, but we're going to take what we can from this. "When the Father established the cosmos, he watered from it, and his word came forth from it, and it inhabited many." So again, this is hinting at Genesis chapter 1, where it talks about the beginning in verse 3, "Let there be light, and there was light. God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness." And then it goes on in verse 6, where it says, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." Remember, the two basic essences of the Pleroma is light and water. And what essentially happened is, through Sophia, she made a space within the waters, separate the waters from above the waters and below the waters, separated them from each other. It says, so God made the vault, and God is Elohim, which Sophia is part of, made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. Now this word sky is the same word we use to use the word heaven, or the heavens. And so in this particular case, what we're literally talking about here is that we're in the middle of water. Now, if scientists eventually do have the possibility of traveling millions and millions of light years outward, they're going to find they'll eventually run into water. So that's what we really have. We're surrounded by water. At least this is what's being suggested here in Genesis chapter 1. And that Christ also talks about when he's responding to Judas' question about signs and symbols. And he goes on to say, and it inhabited many. So, and his word came forth from it. So the word, Christ came forth from the cosmos, from that water source. He came from that light and that water, and he inhabited many. He's within, the Christ within, the hope of glory. It was higher than the path, surrounds the entire earth, the collected water existing outside them. The water, a great fire encircling them like a wall. Now, before we get to the water, there's a wall of fire that's also surrounding the cosmos, or the universe. This is what's being suggested here. Time once many things had become separated from what was inside. So, in other words, not what's inside the cosmos, but within every man. That is the Gnosis, the Christ within. Through time, we became separated from that. We fell from that place called the Holy Souls realm, that I call the Holy Souls realm, the eighth heaven. And that's where the stories of Atlantis and Lemur and all those things. When the ... was established, he looked and said to it, go and from yourself, in order that be in want from generation to generation, from age to age. Then it cast forth from itself fountains of milk and fountains of honey, and oil and wine and good fruits, and sweet flavor and good roots, in order that it might not be deficient from generation to generation, from age to age. Now this is in the eighth realm. This is before the fall of man, so-called fall of man, where we were then imprisoned into earth. Now that's what's going on, and we became breathing only our spirit in and out, not being the spirit only of the soul and spirit, but we became no longer translucent beings, but dense beings. And then we were then imprisoned, encapsulated, so that we could not go beyond, for at least for a time. And that's the age to age, generation to generation. And this is how it all started. Initially, that place, eighth heaven, is filled with, there's no poverty really, and it's limitless. And it is above, standing, its beauty, and outside there was great light, powerful, resemble it, for it rules over all the aeons above and below. It was taken from the fire, it was scattered in the above and below. So that fire, the aeonic energy, which is the Christ energy in the Sophia, was broken up into shards and placed within all of us. All the works which depend on them. It is they over the heaven above and over the earth below. On them depend all the works. So that is all the works that Christ, the Mother Father, is working through, every one of us. That all of us they are dependent on us to bring about that work. So to answer Judas's question, the signs and symbols that they are an account, did they happen thus? He says, behold, I see that all things exist like signs upon ... So we don't exactly know, but here I believe it's suggesting those signs and symbols are already within us, and they resonate with whatever we're seeing in the heavens. It's telling us something about what's within us. It's reminding us all the time. That's what I'm getting from this in our past. And when Jesus heard these things, he bowed down, or Judas heard these things, he bowed down, and he ... and he offered praise to Christ. So Mary then held his brethren, saying, where are you going to put these things about which you asked the Son of God? I think that's what it says, ... Son ... But the Son of God. So, in other words, are you going to write this all down? Are you going to be able to remember this? Are you going to? Where's this all going to go? This is an astounding amount of information. So Mary wants to ask Judas, the brethren, and Christ said to her, sister, no one will be able to inquire about these things except for someone who has somewhere to put them in his heart, to come forth and enter, so that they might not hold back this impoverished cosmos. So in other words, they're already in your heart. So there isn't a place you need to put them. They're already there. And that's what Christ is saying, sister, no one will be able to inquire about these things except for someone who is somewhere somewhere to put them in his heart, to come forth, and enter. So you have to open up your heart, and it enters then. It's actually the opposite of enter, but Christ uses the word enter, open up your heart, allow Christ within to come in. But remember, Christ is already within you. So whether you enter or exit, it really is the same thing. But the goal here is to not hold back, to be part of doing the work to help revitalize everything that is the impoverished cosmos, right? This cosmos is impoverished. And so Matthew said, Lord, I want to see that place, the place where there is no wickedness, but rather there is pure light. He wants to know about that place he talked about earlier. Where is this? And Christ says, Brother Matthew, you will not be able to see it as long as you are carrying flesh around. So Matthew then says, Lord, even if I will not be able to see it, let me know it. He wants to know, can you help me understand it better? So the Lord says, everyone who has known himself has seen it in everything given to him to do, and has come to it is in his goodness. So that's the fullness. That's that place where you are at rest. That's that place where you're doing your good works, you're at peace, you're in a meditative state, where time is suspended, where you're doing your work, and you're doing it joyfully, and you're connecting to the source of everything that you're supposed to be here, that seed. And you're not being distracted by the left-hand path or the right-hand path, but you're walking the straight and narrow, that few that find it. And that is that place that is the place of life, the place of pure light, where there is no wickedness. In other words, there is no burning of the flesh. There's no burning of water. There's no burning of air. In that light that's being produced from the fire is not the light, you see. It's the pure light that's being released that is the light. But in this realm, fire burns those things in order that light be released. That's the very function of the demiurge, you see. So Judas responded saying, Tell me, Lord, how is it that which shakes the earth moves? And so it's not clear what he's saying here, but again, my guess is how is it the earth is able to move? Like, how's that even possible? The Lord picked up a stone and held it in his hand, saying, What am I holding in my hand? He said, It's a stone. He said to them, That which supports the earth is that which supports heaven, the heavens. That very thing that you can't even see it. So already, even though this book was written 2,000 years ago, it's literally talking about gravity, or a kind of gravity, right? It's talking about the invisible is what's making everything possible, holding the earth up, making everything move. When a word comes forth from the greatness, it will come on what supports the heaven. It will come upon what supports the heaven and the earth. So whenever a word comes forth, meaning whatever's coming from the mother father, this is the greatness. It will come on what supports the heaven and the earth. It will come through that, the invisible. For the earth does not move. Were it to move, it would fall. But it neither moves nor falls, in order that the first word might not fail. So what does he mean by it does not move? So it's saying that it endures, it continues. For it was that which established the cosmos and inhabited it, and inhaled fragrance from it. For whatever that thing is, that invisible thing, the spirit basically is what's being talked about here. And of course scientists call it gravity, but it's something much more profound. Gravity, scientists don't really even know what gravity is. It's more of a theory than it is something they can actually quantify. They can indirectly quantify it by the effect of gravity, but they can't actually put gravity in a bottle, for example. So what is that thing exactly? Why? And that's what Judas wants to know. How is it able that the earth just already, and this implies, again, it sort of gets rid of the whole flat earth concept, because Judas is already implying like the earth is just suspended. Christ is literally saying the earth is hanging in the air, okay? And so, for which do not move, you, all the sons of God, and it is inhaled in the fragrance for which you are from that place. So it's coming from the source. The essence of everything is coming from the cosmos, from the Pleroma. In the hearts of those who speak out of joy and truth, you exist. And here's the key here. It's talking about joy and truth is the substance of everything. There's no other truth. For the Father and Mother is joyful and truthful. And that's the essence. That's among the essences that exist. The highest essences that exist in the Pleroma. And it is joy and truth that sustains everything. And what does that mean? It's very metaphorical. It's very ambiguous, right? It's abstract. These are abstract concepts, but they exist. They're nominal entities even if it comes forth in the body of the Father among men, and is not received, still it returned to its place. So the universe goes on with the believers and the non-believers, with those that are on the left-hand path and right-hand path, and those that walk the straight and narrow continues. Why? Because it's joy and truth and life, and there is no judgment. It just, as it says, the sun rises on both the good and the evil. Whoever does not know the work of perfection knows nothing. If one does not stand in the darkness, he will not be able to see the light. So this is the point here, is that's why we're being brought down to this realm. So we may practice free will and start to exercise gnosis and wisdom, not just simply knowing something as in I'm sitting in a classroom, a teacher tells me 1 + 1 = 2, but actually experiencing that gnosis and gathering that wisdom through the burning of the flesh and the water and the air that we breathe. He will not be able to see the light. If one does not understand how fire came into existence, he will burn in it. So this fire, how did it come into existence? Well, it came into existence about the whole story that we had been talking about, through urge, because he does not know the root of it. If one does not understand water, he knows nothing. And again, what are the elemental the basic essences of the Pleroma are water and light. That's it. There's nothing else. Everything else that you see is just a dense form of either water or light. And if you don't understand the essences of water and light, then you don't know nothing. He says he knows nothing. For what use is there for him to be baptized in it? And remember, there's the two types of baptism. Baptism by fire and baptism by water. The baptism by fire is the old way, which is the baptism by law, being tried in this realm, the Canoma. Baptism by water is the baptism by the Pleroma, and that cleanses you and makes you whole simply because you are. If one does not understand how blowing wind came into existence, he will blow away with it. If one does not understand how body, which he bears, came into existence, he will perish with it. All of this is talking about the four basic elements. The body is the earth element, blowing, of course, is the air element, and the fire is the fire element, and water, of course, the water element. And so if you don't understand the basics of why you're here, in other words, that you're made up of those four elements, that you have a zodiac sign and you have a mission, that you're made up of the way that the constellation, the signs and symbols all come together uniquely for you. You don't come to understand that intimately. You don't necessarily have to know astrology, but you have to have a sense about who you are, you see, intimately, about how you're made up, and be able to respect that and to follow that truth. And then you will begin to understand and have gnosis and begin to gather wisdom and be able to then grow your seed. And so, if one does not understand his body, which he bears, came into existence, he will perish with it. And how will someone who does not know the Son know the Father? And to someone who will not know the root of all things, they remain hidden. So Christ, he's talking about the Christ energy. If you don't know the Christ within, then you don't know the Father. If you don't know the Father, you don't know the source of everything. And knowing is how we connect to the life force. It is ignorance that leads to death, and knowing that leads to life. The more we know, the more potential we have to have life. But at the same time, if we abuse that knowing, then we lead toward destruction. Someone who will not know the root of wickedness is no stranger to it. And so again, the root of wickedness is this realm. It's the realm of the fire burning flesh. So remember the wick you have in a candle. They both stem from the same word. We also get the word wickedness. All these are basically flesh being burnt. And flesh comes in three forms. It comes in the form of the water of this realm. It's not the pure water. It's the water of this realm, and air and earth. These are the three elements that are being burnt continually, being consumed and being recycled. And they're all being burnt by fire. But remember, fire is trying you in this realm, the Canoma. Fire is not light. Remember that. Fire is not light. Fire is the burning, is the urge, the demiurge within each one of us. It's the urge of the universe to express itself through free will, to exercise its mission, its accomplishment. And while it does that, it picks up wisdom. It can only do that by burning the flesh, and it then picks up wisdom. That's why it's called the left-hand path, why it's called the path of evil, the path of being divided, the female path. And so you have the right-hand path, which is the male path, and that's the opposite of that. And so we want to be able to understand what's going on here metaphorically, right? Metaphysically. Whoever will not understand how he came will not understand how he will go. And he is no stranger to this cosmos, which will ... which will be humiliated. So I think think it says which will be lost in some way. So if you don't understand where you're coming from or why you even came from in the first place, then how can you even know where you're going, right? You don't know ultimately where you're going. So you are going to be ultimately a stranger to the Pleroma, but no stranger to this realm. This realm will feel familiar to you, will feel like home to you, when in fact it really isn't. It is a place that we act out, we dramatize our spark of light, our fulfillment. And then once we've done that, then we have no use of this husk in this body. Remember, this body is simply a tool for you. It's there to utilize to bring about the soul's urge and ultimately the spirit's purpose for being here. Okay, I'm going to close it there. We'll pick back up in our next video where then he, Judas and Matthew and Mary, the edge of heaven and earth. Well, it goes on here, and I'll just let me finish this because actually it looks like it's continuing from the original question. No, actually it's a different one. Judas raised his eyes and saw exceedingly high place. All right, looks like they were taken to the edge of heaven and earth with the Christ. So that sounds like a great place to pick back up in our next video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a blessed day.